The typical relationship between a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law tends to have a negative image as it is. When they live together, their relationship can often escalate into outright hostility. In my case, that's not true at all. I consider myself lucky to have such kind in-laws, which I'm truly grateful for. My name is Samantha. I'm a 29-year-old working wife. I live with my husband named John and his parents, Ted and Lucy. Initially, my in-laws were living separately, but in our third year of marriage, Lucy's legs got worse and she couldn't move around as easily as she used to. That's when we decided to live together. When I was asked to move in, I had my reservations. Even so, since I had a good relationship with my in-laws, I agreed without thinking of that too negatively. After we moved in, there were no issues, and life was undeniably peaceful. We kept a comfortable distance, and things were going well between us. However, that peace ended suddenly. Lucy was admitted to the hospital. Her chronic illness, which she had been struggling with for a long time, had worsened. While that wasn't life-threatening, considering her age and her leg condition, things weren't looking good. The medication didn't seem to be working, and just as I thought her symptoms weren't improving, she suddenly got worse. First, there were all sorts of tests. Then came surgery, followed by rehabilitation. Lucy's hospital stay stretched out longer and longer. Naturally, the burden of taking care of everything at home fell on me. My father-in-law named Ted had been doing his best to help around the house under the watchful eye of Lucy, but he was still an older generation man. Moreover, with his age, he wasn't able to do things very well. He kept making mistakes while Lucy wasn't around. On top of that, with his age catching up to him, his body wasn't cooperating much either. There was no way he could take care of Lucy in the hospital. As a result, the responsibilities at home landed even more heavily on my shoulders. After work, I had to clean the house, do the laundry, prepare dinner, and get the bath ready. Once all that was done, I had to arrange various things for the following day. All of that had to be done while I was exhausted from work. I wished John would help, but his work was incredibly busy. He had always come home late, but around the time Lucy went into the hospital, he started coming home even later. Sometimes, he wouldn't get home until after midnight. Even so, I had work too, and I knew I was going to hit my limit sooner or later. That's why I asked John for help even just a little. After coming home late, he would eat, take a bath, and then just lay around. On his days off, he'd go out and do whatever he wanted. I finally asked,
"Could you help out a little? It's not fair."
But he responded,
"If it's that tough, why don't you quit your job?"
"I can't do that. We'll be struggling financially if I stop working."
You make less than me anyway. It won't make much of a difference without your income.
"If I quit, I'll be leaving my workplace in a bad spot."
Why are you so conceited? No one's going to care if you quit.
I couldn't believe how cruel his words were. I was just left feeling more and more frustrated with him. However, that frustration suddenly disappeared one day.
I'm sorry. I've been putting everything on you, and that's not right. That's my mom after all. I'll help more.
I wondered what was going on. That was weird, yet I shouldn't say that though. Still, I couldn't help but wonder what had caused John to change his attitude suddenly. As I looked at John with suspicion, Ted talked to me. It seemed that Ted had given John a good talking to.
Thank you for all your hard work. I should be doing more, but the fact that my son isn't stepping up to help more than you is the real issue here. I told him that it was time to change jobs if his company wouldn't even let him take care of his own family.
Now I see. That makes sense.
I thought. A word from a real parent was much more effective than anything I could have said. Either way, the fact that John was willing to help was a relief. I thought so, but it turned out things went in the opposite direction. I didn't expect John to make dinner every night. Instead, I asked if he could make lunch once a week, and I'd handle that on the other days. So far, that wasn't too different from before. When I asked John to do laundry, he'd use way too much detergent, causing bubbles to overflow, and he'd forget the fabric softener, making the clothes all stiff. When I asked him to at least hang the laundry, he'd just throw that on without even smoothing out the wrinkles.
Can't he at least spread out the towels properly? Well, never mind.
I said to myself.
Just bring the laundry in when it's dry.
I said that and went out to run errands. Then, it started raining while I was out. I rushed home, and sure enough, the laundry was still hanging out there. When I asked,
"Why didn't you bring it in?"
he just said,
Well, it wasn't dry yet, right?
"Oh my God."
I shook my head. That was the same with everything. When I asked John to clean, the house somehow ended up even dirtier. That was like a special talent, which I didn't want him to use. At first, I tried to correct him, hoping he'd improve, but no luck. Seeing no growth from him, I realized that was hopeless. Thus, I was still doing most of the housework with my frustration only growing. Even so, John was concerned about his mom as expected. He visited her in the hospital every day, which I had to admire. As for me, with all the things I had to do, I couldn't go visit her so often. Ted had been visiting her regularly at first, but his health wasn't great, and he had to stop for a while. He looked a bit down about that. Therefore, I asked John to take care of Lucy's laundry, bring her fresh clothes, and check if she needed anything. Yet, he did nothing but just replied,
Mom told me not to care about the laundry as she could use the hospital's laundry machines. If she needs something, she'll text me. She also laughed and said you didn't have to worry about visiting. I visit her every day, which is enough for her.
Literally, he did nothing useful. On the other hand, when Ted was visiting, we'd at least get some messages and updates from Lucy.
Isn't this strange?
I wondered. Maybe. Lucy thought John might not be reliable enough. I felt pretty uneasy, as that might be a real possibility. Even though we were exchanging messages, Lucy was a patient in the hospital. She wasn't going to have her phone on all the time, and even if we sent messages, she rarely replied. When she did respond, her messages were often filled with typos, and I could barely make sense of them.
Jan signet, comum tube ethi?
Huh? What is that supposed to mean?
I was perplexed. I understood typos would happen, but I wanted her to double-check before sending. It had been a week since Ted's health hadn't improved and I hadn't been able to visit the hospital. Meanwhile, John had been as unhelpful as ever. I finally ran out of patience and took a day off to visit the hospital during the day. I thought about going after work like John did, but that was just too much. There was no way I could handle visiting the hospital after work and then coming home to do housework, unlike John, who did nothing after getting home. Thus, I finally went to visit Lucy after a long time. When I showed up, she looked so happy to see me. She was delighted with her favorite yogurt I brought her. Just seeing her smile made the trip worthwhile.
I've been really busy and I haven't been able to visit much, Lucy.
Oh, don't worry about it. Thank you for all the housework. Isn't Ted causing any trouble?
Not at all. I think he's just paying the price for working too hard after you went into the hospital. He still seems tired, but I've been making healthy meals, so he's getting a bit better. He should be able to visit again soon, too.
Wow, that's wonderful.
My in-laws had such a great relationship. Honestly, I'm a bit envious. On the other hand, John was. No matter how busy I was, he was lounging on the couch, playing with his phone. I've tried to teach him how to help around the house, but he just wouldn't budge, just like a huge heavy rock. Moreover, we hardly even talked at the time. I wondered if we could still call that a marriage. The loneliness must have shown on my face. Lucy suddenly looked concerned and said,
Are you okay? You look exhausted. Don't worry about me. Go home and rest.
I'm fine. I just wish John would help out a little more.
I knew I probably shouldn't complain about her own son, but I just couldn't help myself. Lucy sighed and said,
Oh, that boy.
However, her next words froze me in place.
He hasn't come to visit me since I've been in the hospital.
Excuse me?
I exclaimed.
What did she just say? Did I mishear that?
I wondered. Lucy smiled wryly.
I sent you a message, but I guess he's busy with work. Still, he could come at least once.
Right, I remember the message with full of typos.
I thought. Her message read,
Jan signet comem tuba ethi?
that was supposed to say.
John isn't coming today either?
I said.
Now I see. Mystery was solved. Huh? Wait a minute. That's not right at all. What's going on? John told me he's been visiting every day, didn't he?
To myself. I couldn't believe that, so I hesitantly asked Lucy.
It's about John.
What about him?
He's supposed to be visiting you every day.
Are you serious?
We just looked at each other for a moment. Indeed, something wasn't adding up. If John was visiting Lucy every day, why wasn't he bringing back any laundry? He never took anything there either. Besides, John isn't the type to be that diligent. I know his personality better than anyone. A person who would leave wet laundry out in the rain wasn't someone who would go to the hospital every day.
Could it be possible?
Lucy was watching me anxiously as I muttered to myself. 3 months passed after that. Even though life was busy, I could get used to things eventually. Maybe I just got better at handling everything. While thinking that, I was organizing some things. The day was going to be hectic, so I took the day off work. The day flew by with all the things I had to do. Before I knew it, it was evening. When I was cleaning up after dinner, I heard the front door open.
Hi, I'm completely wiped out.
John came home at his usual time, almost 9 p.m., another late night.
Hi, John. You're late again, huh?
I said that and greeted him at the door, and his face immediately soured.
What's with that tone? I've been visiting Mom every day, even though I'm tired from work. If you got time to make snarky comments, maybe you could make a better dinner.
Normally, that would have made me angry, but I was thinking.
You can say such things only now.
I had to hold back my laughter.
Did you visit your mom today too? Visiting hours are over by now, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's fine since I'm family, as I've told you before.
Oh, yeah, right. So, how's your mom? Is she doing well?
Yeah, she's doing great. She might even be discharged soon.
Really? She's almost ready to come home?
Yep. What's with that tone? You don't want her to come home? What a terrible daughter-in-law you are.
Since I couldn't hold back any longer, I decided to reveal the truth. I stepped closer to him.
Are you sure? Your mom's really about to be discharged?
Of course, what's your problem? You think I'm lying or something?
Well, guess what? You did tell a lie.
What are you talking about? When did I lie?
Take a look over here. Look at the door leading to the room of your parents.
John's eyes darted around the room in confusion as I opened the door with a flourish.
What's going on?
Look who's here. You can find your very healthy mother here.
What?
John's eyes went wide with shock. Standing right there was Lucy, who should be at the hospital. She looked extremely intense.
Huh? What the hell? Why is Mom here?
I calmly explained everything to John, who was panicked.
Well, now, guess what? The correct answer is, she was discharged from the hospital today.
Discharged?
Yes, that's correct.
I replied. That's right. Fortunately, Lucy was discharged from the hospital today. I took the day off to help with her discharge and bring her home.
Why didn't you tell me?
That's odd. You've been visiting her every day, huh? As you even went yesterday, how could you not know?
Oh well.
John was at a loss for words.
It's weird. Didn't you just say you visited Lucy today? It's really weird. She was discharged this morning. Who did you visit? Her doppelganger? Some supernatural phenomenon? Ooh, spooky.
Well,
When John hesitated, a booming voice broke through the awkward tension.
You idiot.
That was my father-in-law, Ted, fully recovered and looking none too pleased.
What on earth have you been doing? Lying about visiting your mother and instead meeting up with your affair partner. You've got some nerve.
Huh? How do you know that?
I've known for a while. You really thought you wouldn't get caught.
In fact, John had been cheating. 3 months ago, I realized he wasn't visiting his mom at all. I hired a private investigator, and the truth came out. Since then, I'd been waiting for the right moment to deal with that.
Today is the day.
I thought, extremely excited. With a serious face, I pulled out a large envelope and silently handed that to John. His hands shook as he took that, his face pale. When he opened that, his expression changed dramatically.
Is this a divorce form?
Yes, that's right. My part is already filled out, so now it's your turn.
Why?
Why? Because staying married to you would be ridiculous. You've pushed your responsibilities onto me while you enjoyed an affair. Do you really think that's acceptable?
Definitely no. I won't divorce you.
What are you talking about? You love visiting the woman instead of you mom every day, huh? You're clearly so fond of Tammy, right?
How do you know her name?
I had her investigated. There's evidence in that envelope too. She's a coworker, isn't she?
Well,
I've already informed your company. You'll be paying alimony from your salary. If you agree, we can get this done quickly.
Huh? Alimony?
Of course. By the way, I met the woman too. When I went to your office, I met Tammy. She broke down crying in front of her boss, but that's her own fault, isn't it? Oh wait, didn't she tell you?
No, I haven't heard from her in these days. She hasn't answered my calls. I even waited for her in front of her apartment, but... Oh, oops.
Wow, thank you for confessing. Yep, you've been meeting her at her apartment every night. How romantic. But don't worry. You'll have plenty of time to be with her now. She's quitting her job and moving back to her hometown. Why don't you join her?
No way. I don't want that.
John had gotten carried away with his young, cute coworker, leaving me to handle his parents and everything at home while he had his affair. He started out saying that was overtime. He switched to saying that was hospital visits, after scolded by Ted. I felt nothing for him.
John, I didn't raise you to be this kind of man.
Mom?
Of course, I can't forgive the affair, but what's worse is how you've neglected Samantha and me. I have no use for a son like you anymore. From this moment on, I'm cutting all ties with you. Pack your things and leave this house.
There's nothing quite like the wrath of a mother.
No way. I have nowhere to go.
Why don't you try a hotel?
As I sneered, John clung to me, tears in his eyes.
No. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to leave the house. I want to stay here.
He'd come home to a hot meal, take a bath, and lounge around. Who wouldn't love that? That had been heaven for him, but that was too late. Everything was over. I smiled sweetly and said,
Enjoy your time in hell.
as for what happened to John afterward, well, he became my ex-husband. Yes, we divorced. John and his affair partner both ended up quitting their jobs because they couldn't bear the shame. His severance pay was small, but that's where the alimony came from. The woman moved back to the countryside. When John tried to follow her, she slapped him across the face and ended things for good. He was living in a rundown apartment, doing day labor. What little he made went toward paying off the rest of the alimony. I imagined he was struggling quite a bit. Every now and then, I heard he tried to crawl back to his parents' house, but they wouldn't let him in. The other day, Lucy, completely in great health, was frantically dumping water over John's head to chase him away. I happened to witness that scene when I visited them. I couldn't stop laughing as I watched him slink off, soaking wet. A few years later, I remarried. My new in-laws are also wonderful people. Despite a late-in-life pregnancy, I was blessed with a lovely daughter without issues. One day, while holding my baby girl, I turned to my husband and said,
Hey, I have a favor to ask.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
Do you mind if I let them meet our baby?
"Those people still treat me like their daughter. They are like real parents to me since I lost mine so early in life. My ex-husband was a disaster, but his parents are truly wonderful, and I love them dearly. My current husband knows I stay in touch with them occasionally. Yet, I wasn't sure how he'd feel about it. When I asked him nervously, he smiled warmly.
Of course. They're important to you, right? Let's go visit them.
His understanding words brought tears to my eyes. Maybe my first marriage was a failure. However, because of that, I could meet people who are irreplaceable. I feel so blessed to have found such kind people in my life. The baby in my arms smiled up at me.